In 1626, the New Netherland had a practice of stealing ships off the high seas from other countries. It was called piracy. No, not piracy on the internet, but like actual piracy, where pirates from countries would engage in the legal practice of privateering, and they would go out and find other countries' boats and steal whatever was on those boats. That included stealing Africans who were being transported from Africa in the practice of slave trafficking. Are we playing with the legacy that was left to us historically? Say their names. Little Manuel, Big Manuel, Paolo D'Angelo, Gracia D'Angelo, Simon Congo, Peter Santome, Anthony Portuguese, Manuel de Garrett, Jan Francisco, Jan Fort Orange. All those people have something in common. They all left something to you, and the question now is, did you claim what they left you, and are you using it the way you should? In 1626, 11 black men, 11 black people were taken from a Portuguese boat, and they were removed from that boat and taken to the colony of New Netherland, established in the northern part of North America. That new country didn't have any streets, it didn't have houses, it didn't have paved roads, it had no infrastructure. Now there were already people living here, and those people were called Native Americans. These new residents of New Netherlands did not want to do the hard labor of clearing out the land and making it so that it could be inhabitable and livable according to their European standards. So they brought in Africans, those 11 black men whose names I just gave, to build their new nation for them. You see, those 11 black men in the year 1635, after they had been working and toiling for 9 years to build the country, to build the roads, to build the houses, to turn this land that was raw, it was uncultivated, it was overgrown. Native Americans, as they rightly should have been, were constantly attacking. These black men did an amazing job of helping them build their vision of a new country. So in 1635, they asked for wages. Yes, these slaves petitioned the colony of New Netherlands for wages. And guess what? They got them. Another 9 years later, by 1644, these men went to the governor of New Netherlands and said, "We have done a really good job for you, but we need to care for our own families. We need to care for our wives and for our children. We need to go have land of our own that we should be farming as well so that we can survive." This doesn't get talked about very often in our history books. The result of this is that you had the first black owners in America of their own land at the beginning of slavery. Black men refused to be treated as only equipment, as only labor, as only property. They understood the value of their bodies. They understood the value of their minds, their intellect, their skills, what they brought to the table, and they leveraged that. They understood that there weren't many laws at the time that defined very clearly their status as laborers. At the time, this country was so new that the laws had not really been fleshed out about the parameters of freedom, who could be free, who couldn't be free, when were you going to be free. And so knowing that, these black men very shrewdly and smartly went to the Dutch government in this new colony, and they took advantage of the fact that of the loopholes, of the weakness in the laws. They had their own prosperity, and that speaks a lot to the black state of mind, even from their place of slavery. 20 years after those first 11 men received their property, the Englishmen came in and they took over the city of New Amsterdam, and they renamed it New York. The Englishmen came over and they were not as permissive. One, they curtailed and confined black people physically, and then two, they did so psychologically. So it's almost like white men, over that course of time, from the 1664 time period to 1712, they spent several decades refashioning black men into completely different people. People that could be more easily controlled, people who could be more easily subjugated. We are often taught that the part of slavery that's most important is bringing us over on the boats, putting us in shackles and chains, selling our bodies, and the things that we've seen in movies such as 12 Years a Slave. And all of that must always be honored. It must always be acknowledged. But we're never taught about the vision, the ingenuity, the intellect, how shrewd and clever we were, our negotiating tactics and our negotiating power. Those aspects and character traits are usually only associated with white men. Our ancestors were shrewd and clever and manipulative, and they understood their worth and they understood their value even while they were in chains. But we're never taught that. We're only taught about how slaves were subjugated, but we're never taught about those slaves who were ingenious. They were remarkable. They were cunning. They were conniving. We're never taught about those aspects of slavery. We're only taught about the parts where in the history books, the conversations, most of the conversations teach us about brutality, teach us about being victimized, teach us about being oppressed, so that our state of mind is constantly oppressed. Rarely are we taught about the ingenuity of the slaves. Rarely are we taught about those slaves who refused to buckle, and they knew their worth and they wanted their property. They wanted their money. Englishmen snuffed that out. It was the goal of Englishmen to brutalize us until we could no longer remember who we were and how cunning we could be. They wanted to turn us into childlike beings who were incapable of thinking of ourselves and viewing ourselves and seeing ourselves as their equals. I'm going to continue with the part 2 of this, where I go into the second part of our legacy that those 11 black men left us, and the fact that it is now time for us to pick up and reclaim that legacy of being ingenious individuals who actively pursue our wealth and who actively pursue our prosperity. It is our legacy, and it is one that we must reclaim, especially now at this point in America. Thank you.